Well, good morning. Back with the concluding lesson from Act 2. And as always, it is based on reference to the context questions and, of course, some of the essay kind of questions which are part of your ISC syllabus. So, before wasting much time, let's go straight into uh, the questions. I have given the sample answers for the first one, and if you look at the first one, it is based on the conspiracy, Sebastian and Antonio's conversation when Alonso and Gonzalo fall asleep. Methinks I do, and Antonio says, "How does your content tender your good fortune?" So what? Why does Sebastian say me things I do? So finally, Sebastian has understood. So my response is, it is at this point or juncture, as you may, whichever word you want to use. The Sebastian finally, don't use both please. I just written it. You can use either. It is at this point or juncture that Sebastian finally understands the real reason of how the falling asleep of Alonso and Gonzalo and the rest would advance his position in Naples. So probably that was something he was still toying with it and finally understood what Antonio was meaning, right? 1 mark. Second, what does Antonio mean by and how does your content tender your good fortune? What is the meaning of that phrase? Antonio asks a very leading question to Sebastian as to whether the thought of becoming the next king of Naples pleases him or not. Yes, whether it is he feels happy about it. Does he not feel blessed that fortune has smiled so kindly on him? It's a very rhetoric question that he asks. Yes. So as and understanding fully well that Sebastian is thrilled about it. Yes, and you can see from his response he is, right? The third, what is meant by the word supplant? That's your first part, and how did he supplant his own brother? That is Antonio. So supplant, first part, usurped or took away from the rightful owner. Remember how you write the answer is important. Begin the second part on the next line. Antonio took advantage of the trust that Prospero had conferred on him to rule Milan while he busied himself with the learning and books. That maybe half mark for that. And Antonio gradually won over most of Prospero's men in court, throughout the ones whom he mistrusted, with the help of the King of Naples, and put him and his daughter on a creaky boat, hoping for them to drown and die. Perhaps I've written a bit more than what is expected, but honestly, we don't know where the other 1 mark is coming from because so many things had happened. I've not mentioned about Gonzalo's help, etc., etc., but definitely King of Naples to overthrow, put him on the ship, and taking over the reins. So both the parts have to be included. If you look at the fourth question, which garments did Antonio refer to? How did they fit him? Again, two parts. The garments are indicative of his new role as the Duke of Milan, the king's cloak and the crown. And how did it fit him? Antonio tells Sebastian that though he had supplanted his brother, the role of a duke had suited him perfectly, as he had thrived in his new position and no challenge was thrown at him. Though he supplanted him, yet it suited him. It was not that he was naturally put onto the throne of Milan, he wasn't. He supplanted him, yes, after conspiracy. But he had thrived in his new position. Nobody challenged his authority, and that is important. So that means it suited him well. He did his work to the best of his ability, and that was fine, and it was accepted by everyone. Fifth, the three parts. Who are my men referred to by Antonio? When were they his fellows? Comment on Antonio's tone in the speech. Okay. My men are those men belonging to the court who stood in service of the Duke, right? Duke of Milan. These men were now loyal to him. They're my men. And bowed before him in acknowledgement of his position. These very men were his equals when Prospero was the Duke. He had been in the same unenviable position under his brother with no special benefits. So he was at par with these other men belonging to the court. He was not given any special permission, right? And what is a tone? Pride in his voice and a tone of supreme confidence. See how I have usurped and I have become the first among equals. That is important. So, three parts. Probably the second part would be 1 mark, the first part, and the third part would be half each. Really don't know, but see that each part is put separately to be very precise about your answer. Then the meaning. The sixth is always the meaning, content, and feature. Content, of course, is happy or satisfied, and feature is suitable or fitting, whichever you wish to write. Okay. Now I've got the second question, which is based on again the conspiracy. Oh, if you but knew how you the purpose cherished whilst thou mock it, how in stripping it you more invested. Ebbing men indeed most often do so near the bottom run by their own fear of sloth. Just to tell you, a very important point is most of the questions are based on past papers, ISC papers. I have printed them out here, typed them out for you. Some I have prepared myself. All of them have the same six parts. If, please, please, all the questions are here. Do practice, do write it out. If you have doubts about the response of any of the questions, please write to me. I'll help you uh, in your answers if you have any doubts. But I don't think it's very difficult. Yes. So six parts to that. You have the third question based on Gonzalo's Commonwealth. Had I the plantation of this isle, my lord? Then you have specific questions. Please see how you answer them. All the questions are here, the six parts. Yes. Remember, the questions are there with you because it is a part of the. I'm not calling it out. It's a part of your video, so you have all the questions for you to write it out. And please, please do write out your answer. I feel it is important that you practice. The next one again is when the beginning, when Ariel puts Sebastian and Antonio, keeps them awake while the others are put to sleep. So again, the conspiracy part of it. The fifth one is based on scene two between Trinculo, that when he comes into and the scene and Caliban is hiding under his gabardine. Here is neither bush nor shrub to bear off any weather at all, and another storm brewing. So questions very, very critical to that scene about Trinculo, Caliban, and Stefano. And finally, the last is question 6. Caliban, I'll show thee the best springs, I'll pluck the berries, I'll fish for thee and get thee wood enough. Yes, and this entire thing about how he wants to oust one master to become a slave to another. Yes, so Caliban, Stefano, Trincolo, the section Act 1, Act 2, Scene 2. So you have now, except for one which I have given you the sample answer, you have 5 other questions to work on, right? Okay, let's move to the essay questions. Remember, they're 15 marks each. If you see the first one, with close reference to Act 2, Scene 1, state your observations on the following. What are Gonzalo's views about the Commonwealth? How far do you believe them to be idealistic? So Gonzalo's views of the Commonwealth, something that I dealt with in great detail. If you look at the introduction, the entire board had the chart. You can see a part of the board right behind me. So it had the entire description of his Commonwealth, how he made it a utopian. Well, Shakespeare did take inspiration from Thomas More's Utopia that was published around that time. And so Gonzalo is hopeful, the tone is optimistic. I have put idealistic because it is a world which, uh, believe you me, do you think it really can exist? There is no need for justice because there will be no theft, there will be no quarrels, there will be no property, there will be no trade, there will be no education, there will be no profession. But the island itself will have so much to give to others that nobody would need to work, people will be idle, there will be nothing for men and women to do except laze around, and the island will give them everything that they require. It is utopian, right? So, do you believe them to be idealistic? Remember, why do you believe them to be idealistic? Then you talk about how improbable certain things are in context of survival, in context of society, in context of the world that we see around us. So you have to be very careful. So probably there'll be just a 3 marks for the second part and 5 marks for the first. It could also be 6 and 2 for all you know. But you have to get those 2 marks and write about. Just don't end it with a yes or no answer. Give your reason for it. Yes. And you can always give an example from some aspect of the Commonwealth to show how idealistic it is, like I just mentioned, right? The second part is the true character of Antonio and Sebastian is revealed when conspiracy rears its ugly head yet again in the play. Justify the statement. So, again, how the plotting of another brother takes place, and the entire conversation between Antonio and Sebastian you will explain in your own words, right? And conspiracy again. Prospero spoke about the first conspiracy in Act 1 when he was telling Miranda the circumstances of their coming onto the island, and the conspiracy again here being hatched against another brother, right? Got it? Question 2. In Act 2, Prospero is absent yet present in thought and deeds. In this context, answer the following. The context of the statement by Ariel, my master through his art foresees the danger that you, his friend, are in. You, his friend, refers to Gonzalo. Okay, so Gonzalo and probably indirectly to Alonso. You are in, you know Gonzalo is his friend because if you remember again, Act 1, Scene 2, when Prospero mentions to Miranda that they survive because of the kind help given by Gonzalo, right? So he says that my master through his art foresees the danger that you are in. Yes, so what is the danger? You're writing about the conspiracy, and what does they're putting them to sleep, putting Alonso and Gonzalo and the others to sleep was a part of Prospero's plan because he wanted the audience to realize the evil nature of Antonio and Sebastian, more, more so for Antonio, his own brother. So that this conspiracy that they're going to have, this entire plan of killing the King of Naples, finally, because the first part was just a story that was related. Here, the audience sees the evil nature of these two men in happening right in front of them, how they plan to plot. So, giving the circumstances, giving them the opportunity. Prospero knows their true characters, so gives them the opportunity. And finally, when the time comes for them to draw their sword and kill Alonso and Gonzalo, he sends Ariel to wake them up, foresees the danger, so I'm back. And he sings into Gonzalo's ears to wake them up so that the actual act of killing does not happen. So it is all, the entire scene of the conspiracy is also controlled by Prospero, present in thought and deeds, right? The second part, what leads Caliban to say, a plague upon the tyrant that I serve? So again, the second part is, why does Caliban want Stefano to be his master? Because he feels, like the false strength and courage that he has got from drinking the liquor that Stefano pours down his throat. He believes that these are very gods who can help him to escape from the clutches of Prospero, right? A plague upon the tyrant that I serve. So the tyrant is Prospero. So I at this point in time, I wish all the diseases of the earth befall Prospero. He dies, and it will happen only through Stefano because Stefano has the power. Probably the liquor that Caliban has drunk makes him believe that Stefano has the power to combat the magic of Prospero. Right? So Prospero is there all around in every scene, though he does not speak a line. Right? So that's your question 2. Question 3. Act 2, now because it's 15, you could have a 3-part question. Act 2 brings together most of the passengers on board the ship that was wrecked by the Tempest onto the island. What, according to you, first part, is the intent of Gonzalo's speech about the Commonwealth? Again, intent. So, 2 parts to it. Your intent is to, first is to bring hope into Alonso's mind. Alonso, um, who's falling into a deep sense of depression because of the thought that he has lost his son Ferdinand forever. He wants Gonzalo wishes the king not to think about this, hopeful, so he wants to divert his attention and brings to fact about the Commonwealth when he talks about something very idealistic, very utopian, but also very hopeful. So, then a few details of the Commonwealth. It's your 5 marks. B. What, according to you, is the motive behind Prospero putting all to sleep except Antonio and Sebastian? To reveal the evil nature of Antonio and Sebastian. How does it reveal? By the plot that Antonio is hatching, yes, and trying to convince Sebastian that he should take advantage of this sleep that has come upon his brother Alonso and Gonzalo and the others. So, indirectly, again, uh, the motive you have to highlight, and also the task, the motive along with the task. Motive more important. See what, according to you, is the true nature of Caliban revealed in scene 2 of this act, and how. How is it revealed? What is it revealed? That Caliban is and will always be a slave. See, unlike Ariel, who is demanding freedom from Prospero, he said every time he talks to Prospero, he's reminding Prospero of the freedom. Caliban is not looking for freedom. What is he looking for? He's looking to overthrow Prospero, get Prospero killed, so that he can now have a new master. So you see, it reveals the entire servile attitude of Caliban. He's born to serve. He's not born to be a leader. He's not meant to be a free soul. His soul is meant to be caged always. And that is what makes him different from the other spirit on the island, that is alien. So you could bring that contrast out, and you have to bring the true nature of Caliban and how he immediately recognizes Sebastian to be his new master when he drinks the liquor, and he believes that it's a nectar from the very gods, little understanding the true worth. Also shows how dim-witted he is, which Trinculo himself mentions, that he is such a fool to have accepted a drunkard like Stefano as his master. Yes, because Stefano and Trinculo, after all, are servants in the court of Duke of Naples. They do not have any qualities to be masters. But for Caliban, who is dim-witted, who is slavish, who is, as is very obvious, has no understanding of human nature, proves his foolishness further by accepting Stefano as a perfect foil to the all powerful, learned Prospero. The contrast is so intense, right? So that's your third part. I have put down some points for you to ponder. Specific purpose for Shakespeare in Act 2. Yes, the complex situation, the theme of conspiracy that is taken forward when two conspiracies is more are hatched. The theme of authority is addressed, which is linked to conspiracy, to seize power. Antonio and Sebastian, they're thinking of seizing power. Caliban is also thinking of seizing power. Gonzalo, through his Commonwealth, a very radical view about authority. Although it is more utopian, as I had discussed, I have put these points down. These points will help you also to design your answer, right? The scheming designs, Gonzalo's world reflects the plenty and prosperity of the Renaissance. It's the Elizabethan harmony. It's a world where there are no savages like Caliban and more loving people like Miranda. Yes, so in contrast to Gonzalo's egalitarian society is the world designed by Antonio and Sebastian. That's a world is a reflection of the civilization, nature versus nurture. Gonzalo's world is nature, true and simple and civilized, while Sebastian's and Antonio's world is nurture. Civilization brings in evil in it, brings in complications, brings in conspiracy, brings in the concept of power, greed, yes, and naturally the contrast is very, very clear. Yes, an important point to note is that there is a contrast also between Gonzalo's optimism and idealism. 2 points: optimism and idealism to Antonio and Sebastian's opportunism and realism. Now, you might wonder, why have I put opportunism and realism together? Because these Antonio and Sebastian are the kind of people who will feel abounds the world. Yes, Shakespeare was very clear: be realistic. There are people like Antonio and Sebastian. Yes, that doesn't mean we cannot be optimistic. That doesn't mean we cannot be idealistic. But we have to acknowledge the fact that there are so many opportunistic people in this world who will tell you that your idealism is false. A conspiracy, threatening, greed, lust, power, pelf, these are the vices that are predominant in our society, in this Elizabethan society as well as our modern society. But that does not mean that we cannot be optimistic like Gonzalo. We cannot dream of a utopian egalitarian world of Thomas More. So we have to have our values, and we have to keep our values intact. Now you see, Caliban is won over by Stefano through the use of alcohol that drugs his senses. So this is very similar to what the Europeans were using during colonizing in the Indies, even the Americas actually. Yes, the slavery had brought in alcohol, opium was used to keep the slaves under their control. Yes, um, and I've given also the power of music a point about music is a symbol of Prospero's magic. So you have a lot of music in Act 2 to acknowledge the fact that Prospero is present. Remember the question that I asked: though he doesn't speak, he's present in thought and deeds. You could definitely bring about the aspect of music. Yes, an Ariel who works according to Prospero's bidding. Caliban's reference to a tyrant is Prospero, and his sole mission in life is to rid himself of the cruel master. And I mentioned that point to you. He is the born slave, and that's how he's contrasted to Ariel. So I've given you lots of points to ponder about in your writing of the long answers. If you still need any help, do write in at my email ID, which I've given you all, and I hope this will be of great help. Please do work on the answers, and I shall see you soon with Act 3 of The Tempest. Have a good day and a wonderful week ahead. Bye for now.